I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting is being held in the council chambers and open for public attendance and participation. Can I have a roll call vote, please? Roll call, please.
Chairperson Silman. Vice Chairperson Brookman.
Here.
Commissioner Noor.
Here.
Commissioner Sandhu.
Here.
Commissioner Dale. Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
Can the record show that Chairperson Silman has an excused absence? She's out of town traveling, please. At this time, I'd like everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. Pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, public comment on items not on the agenda. You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment on items not listed on the agenda will be heard at this time. Comments on controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. Do we have any written requests?
There are no written requests.
Members of the public submitting written requests at least 24 hours prior to the meeting will be normally allotted 5 minutes to speak. Obviously, we have no comments from the public at this time. No appearance from interested citizens. I guess we can move on to Planning Commission business. Agenda modifications. Is the Planning Commission or staff, is there any interest in modifying the agenda?
None.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Minutes from November 13th, 2024 election. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Motion passes. Business items. Consideration of General Plan Amendment 24-04, a focused update to the 2004 Yuba City General Plan, including revisions to the following general plan elements: land use, circulation, open space, conservation, noise, safety, growth, and economic development, and community design. This project does not include any land use changes, but includes technical updates to tables, mapping, reorganizes and updates the plan's goals and policies, incorporates other technical changes, including incorporating environmental justice policies as required by state law. This update shall be known as the 2040 General Plan. Recommendation: conduct a public hearing and make the necessary findings to adopt a resolution. Planning Commission, Yuba City, recommending the City Council adopt addendum to the Environmental Impact Report 2004 Yuba City General Plan and approve the 2040 General Plan update. Presentation tonight by Doug Libby, Deputy Development Director, Deputy Developmental Services Director. Development Services Director.
Good evening, Commissioners. So it sounds impressive, 2040 General Plan update. It's hard to believe we're going to blink and we're going to be there. So this is, as you noted, consider a resolution to the City Council for recommending approval for an addendum to the 2004 General Plan EIR and recommend approval of the technical update to the General Plan. So the general plan was last updated, and that was a comprehensive update back in 2004, together with adopting an EIR. And when you look back further in time, the general plan was before that was adopted in 1989. So there are documents that aren't updated frequently, but it's important to note they're living documents, so they can be updated, and they should be. So to hit a few points on the general plan, the 04 plan was really significant for Yuba City because it was the first time the city planned its entire sphere of influence. Before, it was just looking at the city boundaries. This looked at the overall sphere of influence, was generally described as, Pease Road in the north, Township on the west, and Bogue to the south. So at the time the plan was adopted, the sphere of influence and the city population, it was estimated that by next year, we were going to have 119,400 people. I'm sad to report that we're not even close.
We're not even close.
So as of January of this year, we're at 70,356 people. So about 41% less than what was originally planned for. So there's a number of things that affected that. You had the Great Recession in 2008. Smaller jurisdictions are always the slowest to come out of those things. And then you have the recent global pandemic. And so there's a lot of economic conditions which are just beyond city and county's control, which really affect how and when development occurs. Over the last 10 years, the city has, on average, permitted about 47 new dwelling units per year, which is not a lot. Not a lot to keep pace with the population growth in our region, and that plays into the supply and demand and cost of housing. So when you look at all that information, there's a lot of indicators that the plan, although a lot of effort went into it, has been unused significantly. And so the goal of this update is to update it to be consistent with state law changes and make some revisions to make the plan contemporary for continued use. The goals of the plan are largely the same as the 2004 plan. Maintain a cohesive city, protecting surrounding rural areas, compact development, minimize scattered haphazard development, have strong urban edges, provide new employment centers to support economic development, improve and create an interconnected street system, improve north, south, and east-west connections to new developing areas, create livable communities with convenient access to parks, schools, and commercial facilities, locate the new retail centers that are accessible to serve both city residents as well as shoppers from other communities, and make parks, schools, and open space an integral part of new development with linkages, when possible, to parks and the Feather River Park system. You know, state law specifies to city and counties what a general plan must include. And those, the required elements are up on the screen. Yuba City includes a couple optional elements of community design and economic development. I should note our housing element, which was updated more recently. It's a 2021 to 2029 document. It was actually approved by the City Council in March of 2022 and certified by State Housing Community Development, or HCD, on May 5th, 2022. That was just actually a few days before I started work at the city, so I want to thank Ben for getting that done before I arrived. Okay, so general plans, they have to be comprehensive. They have to look at the entire population area, should address the surrounding planning area. So that's kind of ties in with what Yuba City did in 2004 by planning the entire sphere of influence. It has to address the full range of issues affecting the city's physical development. Plans must be internally consistent. So elements, policies, data, analysis, they all must work together. And plans must be long range. Anticipated development will affect the city for years to come, and state law requires plans take a long-term perspective. So what are some of the changes? So mapping. Mapping, if you looked at the current plan, it's very outdated. So the mapping throughout the document has been made current, reflecting current city boundaries, land uses, including the Bogue-Stewart Master Plan area. Down here. The city is also receiving updated electronic mapping for its Geographical Information System, or GIS, as we call it. Tables and data have been made current throughout the document to be consistent with state law. Information not required to be included, we took some of that information out. And the reason is because you can put some really cool data in a general plan, but unless you're going to keep it current and continually keep it current, it quickly becomes outdated. It makes the document look stale. So we took out old information, really interesting, because other sources actually keep it updated more frequently, and I'll touch on that in a couple moments. Also, plan-wide, the current general plan talks about guiding policies and implementing policies. It created a lot of confusion as far as, well, what really takes precedent? So we looked at this and we took the existing document, reformatted it to reflect goals, which are the aspirational items that a jurisdiction is working toward, and then policies, which are the actions you actually take to reach the desired goal. We also visited the residential land use designations, because right now, if you open the general plan, it says we have low, low medium, and medium high. And so it's that low, medium, and medium high. It's like, well, which are you? So that's been reformatted to just be low, medium, and high. The densities allowed haven't changed. We maintained those, but so it's basically trying to provide clarity, because public and staff sometimes struggled with what's that medium, high, and low, medium actually mean. For the circulation element, here's a copy of the map. Mapping of highways, arterials, collector roads, existing and future, were updated together with providing the number of lanes certain roadways would be expanded to as the city grows. A version of this map is in the current general plan, but this has been refined to reflect really how growth is planned to occur. Another related map, but is not in the current general plan, is existing and future signalized intersections are now shown, and it's based on a new traffic model for planned build-out. Now, as a separate kind of parallel effort, we are going to take forward that updated traffic model to the City Council for consideration and hopefully adoption at the same time the general plan moves forward to them. Circulation element updates. So SB 743. So this is something that's been going on for a while. It's a state law, took effect in 2013. Passed in 2013, took effect in 2019. It really was a seismic shift in the state of how traffic analysis is done. Instead of looking at the typical, I think, level of service we all know and love, how your road meets a through F standard, this looked at vehicle miles traveled. And we've got a definition for it up on the screen for you. But based on the legislation, the 2040 plan has been updated to require compliance with the city's implementation guidelines for SB 743 and emphasis on level of service. It is still included in the general plan, but it's been lessened. And we include the policy up there on the screen, which is policy CI 4-2, strive to maintain a target level of service D or better for collector and or arterial intersections. Another way to look at vehicle miles traveled is I tried to find a good graphic that would help illustrate that. When you have to travel farther distances, your transportation options are less. So you ultimately create more air pollution, greenhouse gases, and use more energy. Whereas if you live closer in, you have to the city and you have less travel you can do, you have more transportation options. And that has the result of reducing air pollution, greenhouse gases, and energy use. Another update is to policy CI 91. It's to require Surface Transportation Act or STA trucks. And that really is the trucks and trailers, the trucks that have a sleeper unit on them. They exceed the California's 65-foot legal limit. When a truck tractor has a sleeper unit, it actually increases the length to about right around 72, 73 feet is what you're looking at. You have to have specific roads the city has authorized that they can drive on, and major state highways. And so proposing to change a policy that these larger trucks be directed to approved areas only. STA trucks parking areas shall be encouraged to develop outside the city limit boundaries unless measures are established to mitigate impacts of their operations on city streets. And so it's really, hey, you need to show how you're going to mitigate your impact on city streets, because those vehicles come with a lot of weight that has an adverse impact on our roads. Utilities. Information regarding utilities has been simplified to refer to separately adopted master plans for sewer, water, and drainage that are just updated much more frequently than a general plan. In the picture here, we've got the city's 36 million gallon per day water treatment plant and our 10.5 million gallon per day wastewater treatment plant. I guess the question for you is, can you tell the difference? Do you know the difference? Okay. Safety element. So the slide lists a long list of different hazards that this chapter covers. Everything from flood hazards, climate change, wildland fire hazards, emergency preparedness, hazardous waste, nutrition, and food deserts. This chapter was very out of date, and so we completely rewrote it. And so the new Chapter 8 included significant input from Public Works Engineering as well as our police and fire chiefs. Couldn't have done the work without them, so thank them. Big thank you to them for that. And the chapter now reflects the city's adopted modern emergency planning efforts and policies. Parks. Everyone loves parks. So neighborhood community parks were actually removed from the 2004 general plan, not in 2004, but at a later time. I'm thinking between 2007, 2008 timeframe. We are proposing to reincorporate them into the general plan in anticipation of a future development impact fee update, really to try to ensure that sufficient monies are collected for the development of future parks consistent with state Quimby Act standards. And so the new mapping for parkland is in existing and future is in Chapter 6. And so you would see that it now includes parkland within the Bogue Stewart Master Plan area. It has parkland as approved in the former Lincoln East Specific Plan area. And you'll see the lighter shaded area which shows existing parkland in the city. Environmental justice. So environmental justice is the concept that everyone, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, have an equal right to environmental protection and be informed of and involved in decision making. It addresses injustice when poor or marginalized communities are harmed by hazardous waste, resource extraction, or other land uses that can be harmful to them. In essence, it boils down to if you have a polluting land use that gets proposed, have some policies that you just can't locate them near poor people. I mean, that has a lot to do with it. Because that happened in land use in California a lot. Now, this comes from Senate Bill 1000 that was approved in 2016, and then beginning in 2018, when cities and counties update 2 or more of their general plan elements, they then need to address, are required to address, environmental justice in some way. You can either have a standalone element, or you can include it throughout your document, which is the approach that we've taken. So the area of the city subject to consideration as a disadvantaged community was mapped using, there's a description up here of the model that was used. And the screening tool looks at things as air quality, drinking water, waste sites, toxic emissions, asthma rates, and poverty. And so the area of the city is generally located east of Highway 99, south of Pease Road, extends south to Franklin, and continuing southeasterly to Lincoln Road and the county airport area. And it's shown on the map there. So we didn't write a whole new bunch of policies. There were a lot of existing policies that really addressed the key issues. And so what we did is we created Appendix 3-1 of the plan. And it contains that comprehensive table of applicable general plan policies that reduce pollution exposure, improve public facilities, promote food access, safe and sanitary homes, and physical activity, allowing us to comply with this state requirement. Okay, environmental review. So when the 2004 general plan was adopted, the city adopted an environmental impact report and made findings of overriding consideration as part of the approval for those environmental impacts that could not be mitigated to a less than significant level, and adopted a mitigation monitoring and reporting program. So for this update, an addendum to the 2004 final EIR is proposed, and it demonstrates that the 2004 EIR adequately addresses the potential physical impacts associated with implementation of our proposed plan update and does not trigger any of the conditions described in the CEQA guidelines section 15162, which call for additional environmental review. So the 2040 general plan update does not require major revisions to the EIR because new significant environmental impacts or substantial increases to the severity of previously identified impacts won't occur. This is because the update is focused on refreshing policy issues to be consistent with the latest requirements and practice standards, and does not propose changes to land use or other items that could have an impact greater than what was already assessed. Future development would still be subject to environmental review, and then staff would carry that out and bring that forward to the commission and council as we do today. The population of the 2040 general plan, the horizon year 2040, we're looking at 82,690 persons in the city limits, or 90,000 including the sphere of influence, which is still substantially less than the 119,400 that was previously analyzed. So because of this, the general plan EIR provides sufficient and adequate analysis of the impacts of the 2040 general plan. Findings. We lay these out in the proposed resolution. I won't read those to you. So the recommendation is to conduct a public hearing, make the necessary findings, and adopt a resolution making a recommendation to the City Council for adoption of an addendum to the certified EIR for the 2004 general plan and approve the 2040 general plan update. Now that would conclude my comments. Now, Mark Teague from PlaceWorks, who is our consultant that helped us with this update, he is also here and with us to help answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any of the commissioners have questions for Doug?
I just wanted to clarify, Doug, on the VMT, vehicle miles traveled, versus the LOS. Is that something that we're going to be moving towards in the future too, in how we identify traffic? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, in fact, level of service is not a part of CEQA analysis at all. It was removed entirely. We are looking at we're required to look at VMT only. Now, we had a pretty hard general plan policy. We didn't want to kind of throw it away entirely, but we've included, as we kind of talked about. But it's definitely, the emphasis is on VMT, not level of service any longer in the state.
I see. Thank you.
Go ahead.
How are you?
Wonderful, thank you.
I'm just curious, since the general plan it looks like 20 years is kind of the rule of thumb, or is that law, California law, every 20 years you must?
No, a lot of times jurisdictions will put a 20-year horizon on it. For this, I think Ben had a really good description of it. This is taking an existing document, putting a new coat of paint on it, changing the tires, check the struts, and patch the windshield and keep going. At least if my plan for the city was, if this general plan update were to get approved, that by 2035, the city look at a comprehensive general plan update and start it around 2035. That way, by the time 2040 hits, you've gone through all the public outreach that accompanies a comprehensive update, and you're ready to adopt a new general plan in 2040.
Okay, so I have a question. If, we've had so many unique events in the last, 20 years. We had a great recession. We've had, a 100-year pandemic, things that have affected land use, right? I mean, you think about commercial property, a lot of it sits empty. Is a general plan an opportunity to kind of look at how things are zoned and get it more in line with how, or maybe how land could be utilized in our city and SOI? For instance, we might have a lot of land allocated for commercial or industrial when there might be a lot of available buildings that are already there that could be occupied, and maybe we don't have a lot of land equally represented for like high density. Just, what is that an opportunity to kind of like look at rezoning, or we don't do that?
So in a comprehensive general plan update, yes. So typically on a comprehensive update, the legislative body, council in this case, would create a citizen advisory committee. You could even create some special focus groups, and they could look at certain issues, report back. And then you get recommendations. That information flows into your environmental document, and you bring that forward. For this plan, I would say the first step is adoption. The next step would be, I think from staff's perspective, is the zoning code, I would say, is quite out of date and is in need of an overhaul. And my recommendation would be for the city to initiate an update to that. You could look at uses, where uses can occur within the zoning, and modify the standards, which could affect how development happens in our city. Because zoning really implements the general plan, and zoning is kind of where the rubber meets the road.
Thanks, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, open public hearing. No one here, so we will close public hearing. I'd like to request a motion.
I make the motion that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Yuba City recommending the City Council adopt an addendum to the Certified Environmental Impact Report for the 2004 Yuba City General Plan and approve the 2040 General Plan update.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. This is, we're going to look at probably taking this forward to the City Council for consideration at their January 21st meeting. So thank you very much.
All right, next we have miscellaneous items. Number 6, future agenda items. Next we have Doug Libby again.
I'll just stay put. Okay, so we are going to cancel the January 8th Planning Commission meeting. We will be coming back to you on January 22nd. The projects that could come to you are a little fluid. We have the site where the old Waffle Barn property is. We could have a project. We're going to have, hopefully that project will be coming forward to you for consideration. And then we have a small parcel map on the west of El Margarita that is on Miller Road. And so those are the two projects we think we will be bringing forward to you. So.
All righty. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Development Services Director report. Ben Moody.
All right, thank you, everybody. I just like to say, hey, yeah, really, that's a big deal here, what Doug just did. I know it's not well represented it from the public, but really that was a big deal. It's a big effort. This has been a multi-year process. There's a lot that goes in there with the traffic model update, coordinating with consultants, really looking into bringing in those, because it's been hodgepodge over 20 years. You have the Bogue Stewart master plan, you have the Lincoln East specific plan, trying to update those maps, get it, and then really read the wording and then bring in those state laws that have changed with the housing element and different things to get it done. So that was a big hurdle. Thank you, Doug. And as we move forward. And so, yes, it's a new coat of paint on an old pickup, but that pickup's still sound. It still has those policies. But there's always an option to fine tune the commercial and the zoning and the land use. We're allowed by state to modify those, and that's what comes before you. So even though we don't have that commercial, maybe it needs to be fine tuned because Amazon's grown so big over the last 20 years, but there's still options for people to come through and consider those as we kind of have the guiding documents still in place. So thank you, Doug. Planning Commission, what do we have? So just a couple items that came to mind. Doug, at the next Tuesday City Council meeting, he's working to assign a development agreement for Chima Ranch, so down along West Sanborn. It was the property owner and the planning entitlement was through Interwest. They're changing the ownership to LGI. And so that's a national builder. I'm hoping with that change that means that something's moving forward. So you might see some development occurring there sooner than later. And then you also have, engineering's received the improvement plans and information regarding Newcomb Ranch, so Bogue Road with city, where are we at with Bogue Road? So there's this history of that Newcomb Ranch, Bogue Stewart master plan, and as we keep moving forward, right now at the December 17th, so next Tuesday, Public Works Engineering is requesting authorization to award the bid for the deep sewer. So there's a big sewer main that will facilitate Newcomb Ranch, and then it also provides capacity to the west. And so that's a big project. We're using ARPA funds, impact fee dollars, coordinating with Newcomb Ranch. And so the award is anticipated for next Tuesday with construction to start in spring. So that's a really big deal for capacity in Yuba City and to help with development. With that, on the private development side, to the south side of Bogue Road, Newcomb Ranch Phase 1 and 2, they've submitted improvement plans for engineering to start looking at the road design and really the specifics. So they're really moving forward with that project where you're going to see probably some dirt moving next year in that area. Another big one. So this has kind of come up recently with districting. So as many of you are aware, there's been recent laws in California that talk about jurisdictions going to a districting when you're at a certain size with the intent to have representation, community involvement more specific to that area. And so City Council is just recently finalized going to that district with a recent election to establish 5 district representatives. And so then also with the Planning Commission coming up, terms for 2028 and 4 commissioners up for renewal, there's a topic to discuss planning commissioners being represented by the district to align with those council districts for representation. So there's a discussion item proposed for the 17th, next Tuesday, to get council direction on how they would like to proceed as far as if they want to go from a 7-member planning commission to possibly a 5-member planning commission to align with the council districts and how that coordinates and how, historically we've coordinated with Sutter County. Sutter County coordinates with the city and then also with Live Oak. And so there's a discussion on that as far as what that looks like and how we move forward to align with the council districts. So more to come on that. And with that, that's all I have for the moment. And I hope everybody's had a good Thanksgiving and happy holidays. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No questions
No
here.
questions, just thank you. And having had some experience in general plan updates, both on both sides of the fence, I know that was no small feat, so job well done again.
Yes, thank you. Next, number 8, we have report of actions of the Yuba City Planning Commission, Sutter County update.
Nothing to update. We haven't had a meeting in quite some time, so.
Alrighty,
An update. Thank you.
that's it.
The ad hoc committee about Plymouth Street, has that committee met yet?
I'm gonna defer to Ben on that. I got a call saying that there was a change in direction, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the naming and regrouping to have another name. At the moment, there was a council item basically to put, to come back and consider the naming of the tower. But there hasn't been any recent work as far as what the murals look like. And so right now, there's been some discussions about regrouping for for an ad hoc meeting to talk about the naming of the tower. I think there was names received for Water Tower Park, but there's been a request by the DBA to call it the Downtown Water Tower Park. And so that kind of put it on a hiatus. And so I haven't heard much from that. On the engineering side of it and the public works improvement projects, the contractor is going to start here soon on Center Street to start installing the lights for the festoon lights. There's light poles that they're going to put up and down the street and cross over. But as far as the murals, the final design of the park, I haven't heard much from the ad hoc committee about that this time. There is a proposed sign. You know, it's always tighter than we would like, but there is funding in place for the archway. There's also a sign proposed at the corner of Bridge and Plumas to kind of be a community, more interactive with the digital board. So when you go by, it can kind of say what's going on for the day, or you know, any sort of announcements. And then definitely there's been some value engineering of the park improvements, what that looks like to fit the budget. And so that's still being worked through, is my understanding. But the tree is still there, and the tree is planned to be lit at the Christmas stroll this Saturday night.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, that's it. Meeting adjourned. Everybody have a Merry Christmas.